go live. Waiting to go live. Waiting to go live. Hey, there we go. Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Adam Steele here from Hot Pulse Studios, coming to you live from Studio B. That is to say, my little home office rather than the main studio. Hope you're all doing well. It's been a little while since I've done one of these live streams, but good evening, everybody. Hope you are all doing well in the chat there. And tonight is mixing night. I've had the most insanely busy last couple of weeks. Just realised my headphones are on backwards. Always good to find that at the start. And we're going to do the thing where I pull in a track from Banana Ranch. I must be roughly halfway through this album by now. And this is going to be a song that I have not heard before. And while we start setting this up, I'll run the intro and then I'll tell you all about the last week or two that I've had, because it's been absolutely bananas. So let's go. Okay, so I have two new tracks to work on. I've got one called Searchlight and one called Weather. I'm not sure which one to go for. Anyone in chat have any preference based on the names? Either one called Weather, not the outside weather in the rain and everything. It's kind of depends whether, W-H-E, Weather, or Searchlight. Both of them need to be mixed, so it's not the end of the world either way. But if anyone's got any preference, I'm going to start drinking a little bit of this lovely glass of Chateauneuf du Pape. Cheers. A notification from eBay. Ooh, nice. Searchlight. We've had... Everybody says Searchlight. Okay, let's do Searchlight then. So I'm just going to drop. That's a resounding Searchlight. So let's drop all these tracks onto separate tracks. Looks like the tempo should be 162. So I'll make sure my project is on. I think it's on time mode, so that when I change it to 162, it doesn't. Yeah, it hopefully didn't. Yeah, didn't re-time anything. I have this habit of starting everything at bar 5, which is. Yeah, cool. And we'll let that build for a second. So while those peaks are building, what a week it has been. We decided to kind of do some remodeling in the studio. And it's been busy. Izzy wizzy, indeed. Let's get busy. So we're turning the current studio PC into a streaming PC. I've put an entire streaming setup in. If you've been watching the vlogs that I've been putting out, I've got to a certain point with that, but then there's a video coming out where you'll see me run speakers cables under the floor and try and start setting cameras up. And I've been going a bit eBay mad recently. I've just won a camcorder on eBay, which will be one of the cameras, probably the one in the live room rather than the vocal booth. Maybe. Don't know yet. I'll find out. But I've also just won a proper Blackmagic ATEM channel switcher. Now, the description of the eBay auction was it's kind of broken, but I had a look through, and the things about it that are broken don't bother me. And these things new, they're about £1,500, and I paid 78 quid for it because it's broken. Hello from Twitch. Oh, by the way, big thanks to everybody who decided to watch on Twitch last month. We are now officially Twitch affiliates. So if anybody would like to subscribe to us on Twitch, especially if you already have Amazon Prime, then please feel free to do so, because that helps us out and doesn't cost you anything. And apparently the sound is better on Twitch and the latency is a little lower, so that's entirely up to you. Now, I'll tell you a bit more about my week as we go, but for now, first things first, aside from the drums, because it looks like Paul is now getting these in a nice order. There's no bass there. Dakota's been upgrading. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of upgrading. Like, I've got lots of things in packages, which I'm going to try and show you the back of, not the front, so you don't see my home address. I mean, you all seem like lovely people, but yeah. Ordering things like capacitors, because I'm going to be recapping my vintage BBC preamps at some point, for which I bought, and you may have seen on the podcast last week, a soldering station. The camera, I paid £11 to get a proper mini mount arm clamp, because originally it was resting on top of a monitor, which meant if I touched the monitor or the desk, I'm now wobbling the screen, and originally the whole desk would move and the camera would shake up and down a bit, which is quite disorienting. So now that's actually clamped to the radiator behind. Don't worry, the radiator's not on, it's summer. Good evening, everybody, good evening. And that means that I've got a nice, solid, stable camera so that nobody gets motion sick. The little things, The little things count up for a lot. I've just put an order in with Audient to get one of their ASP 880s, because I'm going to run all my vintage BBC preamps through it. That's going to be exciting. What else? Let's get on with the mix a little. There's an action strip silence, or remove silence. And so if I split everything at minus 90 dB, it's just an arbitrary noise floor that will, yeah. So I have an ASP 800 and it's great, but yeah, no more shaky cam. And that's great, but the ASP 880 I need specifically because not only has it got the really clean Audient preamps, but after that, it's got a DB25 connector that goes out after the preamps, but unlike the 800, it's got another DB25 connector that comes back in before the converters. So what I can do is I can send all of my channels out the Audient to, I've got 8, well actually I've got 20 something, but I've got 8 currently working good condition BBC classic vintage preamps, but they're line preamps. They don't do like microphone level, they don't do phantom power. So let the Audient do that. Send the sound out to these BBC preamps, which are from the very early 70s. Very nice, very kind of like early Neve design type philosophy. Then have all of that go back into the 880 to then get converted to digital and sent to the computer. So that's going to be very, very nice. Looking forward to that. I've just spent 500 odd quid today on getting my car serviced and MOT'd. And yeah, oh dear. That was rough. But yeah, right. Now that's stripped a lot of the crap out here. You can actually see on these like bridge guitars where I said strip silence and it's left some in. If I zoom in with shift and up, yeah, I can see where either Ricky has started recording early or where Paul's not cleaned up the edit, because it looks like there's no sound, but there is a lot of sound. And again, I'm just zooming in here using shift and up and down to zoom in and out on the waveforms without actually turning anything up or down. And I do like to tidy my edits, because as soon as you start running things, especially heavier guitars, through virtual amps or even reamping through real amps, you start to find that those tiny little bits of noise that you didn't think mattered suddenly get massively amplified. Now, this is another one of those songs it looks like that's got guitars for days. I'm just going to colour in the guitars. So right click, track colour, set to 1 random colour. They're all guitars. There's no bass. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a bass with me today. So what I might well do is do the bulk of the mixing wherever possible on this one. Then, I should probably hit save. Then maybe, depending on how far we get, do some of the mixing on weather. And then on Friday, when I'm in the studio, I can carry this on using the main studio. Had some trouble with the auto strip silence. Did you, let's have a look, because there are some settings which you really need to, especially the tick boxes, you have to pay close attention to. I'm getting an avalanche of emails. Go away, everybody. Actions, strips, yeah, remove silence. Yeah, where is it? Split and remove silent areas. Preserve timing of non-silent areas is very important. Otherwise, it just kind of slams them all together. You can untick that if you've got something like, say, a voiceover where there's loads of silence. You can just get it to just slam them together, which is cool, but I've never actually needed that myself. Run signal through track effects for detection. That's clever. Huh. Just got here. Go away, everybody. Hi, Marty. How are you doing? It's, yes. But yeah, the leading pads and fade pads and stuff shouldn't be a problem. If you're having problems, because the way that I use this is when somebody sent me a rendered file, and the rendered file has bits in that were previously didn't even have any audio in. Busy, yeah, that's just the start of it. Yeah, it's been a hell of a couple of weeks. Like yesterday, and I don't like to be one for name dropping, but I'm telling you all about my week. Yesterday, I was on a Skype call with Henning Pauly for an hour. Never talked to Henning before, apart from for 1 whole minute at NAMM. And he's really nice. And on Sunday, I talked to Warren Hewitt and Glenn Fricker for an hour on a group call. So that was fantastic. I filmed another video with Glenn on Sunday, so that'll come out soon. Literally the minute I put the call, end call, I then did like a family call with Ivy. Well, thank you to Ben in chat. It's we all learn at the idiot stage at some point. Hey, I certainly did. I spent a long time. Are you trying Henning's mix contest? Yes, that should be fun. I've seen in the Produce Like a Pro students Facebook group, there's been some real moaning going on about some of those tracks in there. But my advice would be, it's a mix contest, not a perfection coming to you contest. The challenge is to mix what you have. But yes. Yeah, I use the dynamic split very, very rarely, but when I do, it has actually come in useful, but it's not that common for me. But yeah, absolutely make do with what you've got. The main issue was that people were saying, oh, the toms and things are louder in the overheads than the cymbals are, and it's like, well, depending on how the overheads are mic'd and what mics they are, that's not that unusual. Try and get as much character out of the shells in the overheads as you can, and then add from there, because people expect overheads that have almost nothing in them and then to just layer close mics on top. But I'm sorry, kids, in the real world, that's not how it works. Yeah. Like the Pistols. No, the Sex Pistols does not make do with what they've got. They had session musicians instead. They threw it all out the window and let somebody else do it most of the time. So don't believe everything you read. Anyway, I'm getting massively off topic. I've now trimmed these. These are all going to be not panned. These are all going to be DI guitars. But let's just have a quick listen through and see what this song is like before we start doing any kind of processing, just to get a feel of it. Here we go. That's all coming out of somewhere. You build me up with. So why am I not hearing it? 'Cause you're all hearing it.
up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease. I'm teetering, I'm on the edge, I'm falling to my knees. All alone in the darkest desert.
Because I'm guessing you can all hear that. I can't. Huh. That's a proper mix challenge. Let's just do that. Huh. I should probably save the project at this point because that's what I was doing before that I never actually got round to. Banana Ranch, Searchlight. Yeah, I can see the meter going for you guys. Which makes perfect sense. And I know that my Arturia interface is working. Because you guys can hear me. It's just being a pain in the backside. Voice meter got anything to do with it?
You build me up with the slightest word,
no.
You knock me down.
That's weird. Let's just open up the Audio Fuse control center and see if that's got something weird going on. USB 1 and 2. Why was that cranked up so high? My headphones are definitely plugged in because I can hear myself through the Arturia interface. Yeah, I can hear myself. And that's the first time that this has happened. That's really weird. That is the first time I've had this particular tech issue. Oh, I can actually see it's not coming out of the headphones. Okay, that's a good start. Huh. Okay, Reaper, what have you done? Or it's more accurately. Okay, Adam, what have you done? Change that back. Let's close it. Let's open this again. Just to see if that's it. That's really weird. Let's send it out of a couple of different outputs.
You build me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease. I'm teetering, I'm on the edge, I'm falling to my knees. All alone in the darkest desert.
Emails about other stuff, which I was going to tell you about. But... Hey everybody, it's going well, apart from the Arturia interface is not seeing Reaper's sound. So, oh, there we go. So I can hear it now. I just turned the interface on and off. And you guys should be able to hear me as well. Back to normal. Okay, that was weird.
You build me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease. I'm teetering, I'm on the edge, I'm falling to my knees. All alone in the darkest desert, the mountains block my view. Waiting patiently for your searchlight, what else can I do? It's a shame That you leave me hanging on for dear life, darling. A shame that I can't be found within your searchlight beam. It's a shame that you leave me hanging on for dear life, darling. A shame that I can't be found within your searchlight beam. Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world, if I'm dead to your heart. Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world, if I'm dead to your heart. Without you, there is no
Right, okay, so then the structure basically doubles. That's fine. Okay, so I've got a feel for the song now. So it is kind of a fast, rocky song, but not overly heavy because it doesn't need to be overly heavy. That's good. Yes, perfect Alex wine quote. Alex Lifeson quote. Ah, wine tastes great and makes me feel funny. This is a glass of Chateau Neuf du Pape 2017, don't you know? I thought I'd go a little bit silly while I was out shopping and celebrate, because why not? So, first thing I'm going to do is cheat massively by opening a new project tab and seeing if I can find one of the other Banana Ranch songs. Well, there are some carbs in wine because it's a large percentage sugar, but compared to anything else, it's relatively less than a lot of other, drinks. I'm not a spirits man. And I'm not a heavy drinker either, so. Oh no, you've been led down the garden path if someone's led you to believe that there's no sugars or anything in wine, because this is a good percentage just sugar, therefore carbs. But that's fine. I mean, relatively compared to... let's just see how this sounds. Lovely. So I'm going to copy all of the drums and all of the effects out of the previous song for consistency across the album. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. So, paste, copy, paste. Copy, paste. Just get rid of the actual sounds from the previous song because that wouldn't work now, would it? And just make sure... I'm going to turn off the mixer for a second so I can see what I'm doing. Kick, snare, rack tom, floor tom, hi-hat, overheads, ribbon, center, high. Okay, so they're all in the correct order. Let's see what happens. Make sure snap is on. I usually don't have snap on, but for things like this, it makes sure that all my... wave files stay in time. Yeah, copy and paste isn't something I go for very often, but because I'm mixing across a span of an album here, I don't feel bad because this is exactly what you would do if you were working with a band on an album in a big analog recording studio and you wanted some consistency across the tracks. You'd set the kit up, you'd set the mics up, you'd set pretty much the mixing chain up, you'd record a track, and then you'd move on to the next track and you wouldn't touch the desk, which is the analog equivalent of copy and paste because the settings are then ready for the next song. So yeah, it's that. So let's just solo this and make sure this all sounds right. Oh, gee whiz. Might be a little bit much reverb going on here. Now, a lot of this is programmed drums from Superior Drummer, and questions like would I make many changes are entirely subjective because it firstly depends if Paul has changed anything on his drum set, which he may well have done. It sounds like the snare may be a little different. Let's compare that to this drum kit, which you should be able to hear also. So I've zoomed in on this. So these have all been output by looks of it. No wonder these sound like they're in a cathedral, because they've all been tracked, by look of it, significantly hotter, or at least exported louder. So I'm going to grab them all, bring the volumes down on the sources a bit and see what that does. Because that seems to be hitting things like these compressors significantly harder. Oh, also I've got probably true irons knocking, nearly 6 dB off. And then, so I'm going to copy the master effects as well. I'm going to turn off Slate FGX while I'm mixing, because as great a plugin as it is, it can be quite misleading. But this will sound a much more appropriate volume level. Yeah, so FGX, off you go. Yeah, so a lot of it depends, firstly, on if he's changed anything, which it sounds like he has, so I'm already tweaking away. But then I do change things subtly, depending on things like speed of the track or arrangement. Like, if you use the same drum kit on one song, but it's tickling the ride and gently playing something tasteful, and the next song he's smashing away, I'm probably going to need to change things up a bit to sonically match the rest of the song. But it's good to have a starting point that is pretty equal and then make adjustments as necessary, rather than trying to start from scratch every time and being guaranteed to have no consistency. So, yeah. Wine. So, yeah, my latest purchase, which I literally finished buying 3 minutes before I went live, is I've bought four computer monitors and one of those stands that goes like 4 ways for the streaming setup. So that's going to be off. Whenever you see me in the studio sat at my mixing desk, off to the left is where the streaming setup's going to be. And that's going to have this Blackmagic kind of mult streamer clever thing going on. And it's also going to have another thing that I bought, because I've been buying a lot of stuff recently. It's killing me. I bought the 4-channel Behringer interface, the UMC 404 HD. I have no idea how well it performs. I've been playing around with my Behringer UM2 recently, and that thing's terrible. It's crap. But it should be for the price that it is. It's amazing that they've made it at that price point and it actually holds together. But by all accounts, the 202 HD and above are actually really good. So I thought I'd give that a go, because the idea there is that that's going to be off to the side. That's going to have, I'm going to have a mic like this Sontronics mic at the mixing desk, which is going to split out and go through to the headphone foldback, but it's also going to go to the streaming setup, so kind of like a split signal. But I'm also going to have probably a lavalier mic that's a wireless mic, because I already have a Line 6 G90 wireless system, which I've been using when I've been on tour playing bass and that kind of stuff. But apparently you can get a Shure lav mic for about 40 quid that plugs straight into the transmitter pack. And hey, it's a live microphone setup. So that's going to go in, which means because it's on wireless, I can then go into the live room and talk, and you can hear me in the live room on the stream. But also it's got the other 2 inputs, and I'm going to put a microphone roughly next to each of the 2 sofas in the control room, so that when we're live streaming, you guys can hear what the band or just generally the client are saying. about the mix, about whatever it is that we're doing. And my first thought was to have all those go into the main computer and then just digitally send them out. But then I thought, no, I want that separate, because then if there's somebody on the streaming system, running the streaming system that isn't me, they then have a finer grained control over it, which will be very useful. And then I've got this idea of running Reaper on both systems and using the main desk system as a master system, so that whenever I hit play or record or anything on there, there's a plugin that I quite often use in the studio called Mute-O-Matic. Let's see if I've got it here. Yeah, Mute-O-Matic. Now, Mute-O-Matic is a really simple plugin, and it's great because what it does is it lets a sound, whatever sound is on that channel, it lets it through. But as soon as you hit or record, depending on how you define this, if I just hit play there, it mutes it. Which means that I can have things like a talkback mic with a really heavy compressor on it, but I don't have to remember to press the button every time. When I'm pressing play, it just cuts. Same with a heavily compressed listen back microphone. So I can have a nice, reasonable conversation with the guys in the live room without having to remember all the time not to have that on. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's funny. Yeah, don't tell Glenn that I use Line 6 gear, but the Line 6 wireless stuff, the top tier stuff, has always been really good. Actually, really good. The Spider, not so much, but yeah, Mute-O-Matic is great for stuff like that. So what I'm thinking is then send. If I send that. If I can get Reaper to sync up its play and record signals and that kind of thing with the machine that's over to the side, then whenever I hit play or record on the main machine, it does the same thing and mutes my lav mic and any mics that are on the people who are on the sofas, so you don't get like a doubling and a tripling effect of all the sound coming out of the monitors and then into that. Have I tried Bus Glue by JST? I have not. Apparently it's good, but from what I figure, it's not too different from using just the general type of mix bus compression that I use. Apparently it's a lot faster to use. I like some of the stuff that Joey Sturgis Tones make. Their gain reduction plugin's great, and the Howard Benson Vocals plugin you'll probably see me using later on, because it's really good. So there's a tiny little bit of cork fell into the wine. Someone's mentioning me on YouTube's. Yeah. Okay. So we have a cracking drum sound there. Let's have a look at this. Right, so we're absolutely slamming these ribbon mics. So let's just take the gain back on this. I am liking this large amount of reverb, actually. It's very Billy Decker. Billy Decker's had so many number ones and that kind of thing that I'm going to go with this and see what happens. So I've turned the input gain down on that compressor, but just to give everyone a quick recap, my drums are running through FG Bomber, which gives them some more punch. There's another copy of the Monster on the whole drum group, but it's blended in with the mix knob so subtly that that'll be why the drum sounded massive, because it was a really cranked copy of the Monster through another cranked Monster. So yeah, and then there's air giving the drums all the top end. The kick, let's just listen to the kick. It's just nice and solid with a bit of click, using a Neven SSL EQs to pull the right things around. The snare bump is quite high tuned, like, yeah, so it sounds like it is the same kit, it's just different levels. There's nothing wrong with a Pod HD 500, but you just have to be a bit careful because the cab modeling in them isn't great. And the best sound I've ever got out of an HD 500 was using a 2 notes torpedo cab modeler and turning off the cab emulation in the pod, and suddenly they sprang to life. That sounds nice and big. And that ambient ribbon, that's where I can really hear. I'm going to use that re-EQ. I can hear a ringing in the cymbals that I do not like. So I'm going to hit play. And just isolate it. There, that's just whistling in my ear. That's painful. There we go. Now, it feels like I've gone a little too far with that, but there are 3 other tracks that have that ringing on with the cymbal, so hopefully... Yeah, the sharpness of the cymbal's back, but that resonance is gone, so it's not quite as painful. There's still some resonance going on the overhead, so I think I'm going to do something similar here. Oh yeah, there's a nice big ringing resonance. That can go. There we go, and I'm just adding loads of top end on this snare just to let it cut through without adding too much more volume. Lovely. Now let's have a look at these crunchy guitars. I don't have my whole reamping system with me this week. In other news, I've blown up my 5150 and my 6505 in the last month. So, yeah, can't do any reamping with them for a little while. The 5150 was very much my own fault because I was running the Mesa V Twin through it at incredible volume, and it just kind of went pop. I think it might just be a fuse, and I'm going to check that out. But, yeah, running an amp that generally runs with its volume just above 2 at like 7... it's not a recipe for good times, especially when the amp's nearly 30 years old and probably hasn't been serviced in most of that time. So yeah, my bad. But the other one, the 6505, I was doing a video which is going to go out in the next week or so where I've been upgrading my Strat, which is hardly a Strat these days. It's like, you know... The wood's the only thing that's original, and it was actually a Sun Mustang, which it's a Strat. But I was demoing the before and after, and the after I was using the 6505, and suddenly I could smell something not good, something burning, and I'm always quite aware of stuff like that, because having been a chef, when you smell burning, you whip round and make sure something's not on fire. And so... it wasn't on fire, but 2 of the 4 power valves in the back were glowing bright red. Not good. So instantly, I flicked it to standby. I intended to turn it off, but I just turned it to standby accidentally. and they both cool down and stop glowing red. Tried that a couple of times just to see if it was a weird one-off, let it cool down and gave it a go, and it did the same again. It's runaway plate voltage is causing it to massively overheat, which is not good. So I turned it off hopefully before any other components inside went bad. But if it was one valve that was red plating, that would tell me that the valve had gone bad. Two of them on the same side, that's something else entirely. That's not good. So I turned it off, let it cool down, and I've talked to one of the best amp technicians arguably in the world, and I'm very proud to say that he's a Mancunian. He's from Manchester. A guy called Roland Lumby from the Amp Clinic. He's an absolute genius, but he's in his 70s and he's not in the best of health, which means he's quite willing to fix those amps, but with the whole, situation that's going on around the world right now, he's holding off until September for the next batch of amp fixes. But yeah, this is a guy who he repairs Brian May's amps, things like that. It's like he's that guy. So yeah. Oops. Oh, you can hear it coming through the floor in the lunchroom. Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing well downstairs in the lunchroom. Now, getting back on track. This is probably supposed to be quite heavy, but like indie rock heavy. So let's see what I've got. Oh, recently in Reaper, they moved the filter for the EQs up to the top. It's a little disorienting if you've used it for as long as I have, because I keep looking for the filter down the bottom. I'm just going to have to adapt to that. But that's fine. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use... yes, I'm going to use Kazrog stuff because I've been talking to Shane McPhee from Kazrog recently, and he's a super solid stand-up guy. And when the whole thing with, I'm going to put, this is the very clever thing. I'm going to use Reaper's own reverb as my cabinet loader, and that's going to be awesome. And we were talking about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago. Yeah, I'm guessing it was something to do with the caps rather than the load, because it was using my Captor 8, and my Captor 8 is absolutely solid. I went then back to using the JCM 800 Studio with the Captor, and even cranked up. There were no problems. It's not the 2-note stuff, I'm quite sure of it. And the speaker cables were solid and everything. So I think, yeah, something's gone with the cap somewhere. I mean, this is an amp that's probably 20 years old and already had a couple of small issues when I bought it. So yeah, it's they're not amps that are known to go bad, but yeah, back to the mix in hand. I'm going to load up an amp which I can't show you the folder for yet. Ooh, what is it? What's he doing, precious? I'm going to start with this one. There we go. Apply minus 18 dB of gain so we don't all go deaf. It is Hop Pole Zilla Vertical 4x12 G12M Greenback. Yeah. So this is, and it's an SM57 in Fredman technique. Let's see how these sound. Because that should be stereo loading, and this should be stereo amp model as well. And I think what I'm going to do is, rather than using a tube screamer in front of this, because I don't need more gain, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run Reaper's own EQ, re-EQ, in front of the amp, and I'm going to shelve out some low end. Listen to this change. There we go. That's sounding more like a Marshall now. I think that's Ricky's Epiphone 335, which has a lot of low end in it. Epiphone Les Paul, sorry. Because without this, there's no definition with it. Cool. And that's where I was talking about cutting the silence before. Listen to this. Significant noise. Hiss, hiss. So I want to cut that off because that hissing is not from the amp model. Oh, yeah. 45 minutes in and only just hitting the like button. Dun, dun, dun. So, yes. So it's time to get a little bit of EQ on this job. Oh. There we go. There we go. Not too much of a spike there because my greenback's relatively even. Yes. Right, I think I'll take the overheads down by a couple of dB here. And now I think I just want to saturate this bridge guitar a little bit. Hello, hello, hello. So yeah, I'm gonna use another copy of True Iron on this, I think. Actually, no, before I do, I'm gonna add all these guitars to a group. Because there's a lot of guitars going on. Oh, hi, hi. And so the guitar group is gonna get a little bit of character. Good old virtual mix rack, Mr. Slate, how do you do? I'm gonna go with the London console. And the SSL mix group. A little bit of revival to just bring a bit more guts out. So without all that, working with. Yeah, that's sounding really good. Now there's another guitarist. The scratch guitar, which is one of Ricky's signature things. I know I seem to be getting a little ahead of myself, but what I'm doing today is I'm working from the biggest section and then kind of working outwards. Because then if I can get a nice big sound, I can always fit other sounds into that. So I'm going to adopt that technique today. Hard pan these. Ugh. Oh, that's making me slightly dizzy with that. That means I need to drink a little more wine. But yeah, Chris, if you're watching, I've just ordered 4 monitor panels and a big like 4-way stand for my new Blackmagic switching system for the streaming. It's going to be bananas. Bananas. Right, so for this, I'm going to copy across the amp and the cab. Oh, no, I meant to do that to the group. Okay. Yes, and I've also just bought a Behringer interface, would you believe? For reasons I described earlier on, but it's all going to come together in the next month or two, and it's going to be absolutely sweet. So, that's not bad. I'm going to take the gain down, because what I'm thinking, going back to Kazrog stuff, I'm thinking he had a couple of fuzz pedals. I think Ram Fuzz was the one I had in mind. Yeah, so I just wanted to make a video on the Behringer interface. Is that I now have 2 of them, for shame, I know. Ding, shame. Change the background colour to light yellow. Oh, you mean the mustard coloured guitars? Let's change them to a different random colour. That's far too close green to the drums green. That's really stupid. That's more pleasant to look at. There we go. So, that's kind of cool. But I'm going to change cabinet to one that you're not allowed to see again, to an, let's say, a red back. And use R121. So something with quite a lot of low end but smoothness. That's brutal. I like it. But what I'm going to do with it now, so that was an R121 Royer ribbon on my red back in my vertical 412 on an Impulse that will be released relatively soon. Anywho, that sounds disgusting, but what I'm thinking in my head is, firstly, let's use this re-EQ to get rid of all that low-end stuff. Because I was kind of aiming for the general tone there, but I can definitely get rid of a lot of that. And also there's a lot of super high frequency crap going on that can go. Really. And I like the fact that this is a little rough around the edges, but what I can do now is I think I'm going to load up. Greetings, Mr. Bommel. How are you? How are you? Greetings, greetings. I'm going to load in a copy of Echo Boy and do what I never usually do. Let's go with Echo Boy Junior. Why not? Something a little different. I'm going to load it onto the track in line. Very odd for me, I know, but I thought I'd use this as a very specific per track effect. Family's good. Yeah, it's Ivy's birthday. We're having a tiny little gathering on Sunday. And I have kind of officially left my bar job now, which is great because I'm now a full-time YouTuber, which is a weird thing to say. I'm still trying to get my head around that. I mean, no complaints, but just weird. But what that does mean is, yeah, I'm still helping out a little, especially with the lockdown lifting. So Saturday night, I'm going to be helping out. I'm going to be helping out with the grand reopening, which is going to be weird. Right. Ooh, there's an ambient delay here. So sorry, that's kind of, yeah. This is going to be fun. Let's see how this goes. Just put a bar in the studio. It was enough work as it was. We actually have a bar in the studio, would you believe? We have a full, proper bar. The building used to be a pub. We still have one of the bars. No, we're not opening it to the public. I think I prefer the Memory Man to the ambient. So these IRs are not yet released. And for now, I'm not going to announce where they're going to be released. But I get to use them, and it won't be long until I can do a proper big official announcement. But yeah, so far I've used my Vertical 412 with a red back on this and a green back on my rhythm guitar. So let's just see how this sounds now in context with the rhythm guitar and see if that's too much. Oh. There we go. Just scooped a bit of that low mid thing out there, because that fundamental's really gonna overtake everything. Let's try it with the drums. That sounded really good to me. That obviously needs bass and it needs all the vocals, but all the customers of your drug dealing neighbor. Yes, I also have a similar neighbor. Isn't it fun? So let's go backwards a little to... Right, so I think what I want is to make this... So that should have been the chorus guitar. Chorus guitar. Now let's make a new track for the bridge guitar. So that was quite slow. It's quite bring. Am I excited? But is Marty excited by Steinberg's VST 3.1? See, I'm kind of not, because when they released VST 3, it took them forever to actually do anything with it and for it to spread out through the ether. So, there's another video I need to add to the to-do pile. I bought Melodyne 5. I got the upgrade, so that is Banana Ranch the DAW? No, it is not. This is the band. This is Reaper. If you are unaware of Reaper, maybe go and watch my Reaper 101 DAW introduction video. Yes. Why are you laughing because I use Windows? What's the problem? You know that by the end of this year, all the Apple products are going to be ARM only, right? Yeah, sure. I'm just going to spend twice as much as I need to on something that I don't need. Plus, this is the kind of channel where we make suggestions to each other. We don't tell each other what to do. So I'm going to copy over my thinning out my JCM 800 from the previous channel, but what I'm going to do is massively back the gain off here. Have I thought of a tutorial for video editing Reaper? I have not, because I honestly don't know how to do it. I used to be a professional video editor and I work in Reaper a lot, but since they added support for video editing in Reaper, I just haven't used it. I mean, I could take the time to get to grips with it. I'm sure within a day or two I could get to grips with it, but it's finding that time spare right now. Ivy is very much into Peppa Pig, not Minnie Mouse. Yes, Peppa Pig. Yeah, this one. Peppa Pig and Thomas the Tank Engine. Would you believe? Big fan of Thomas the Tank Engine. So. Let's bring a bit of low end back into this guitar. Oof. There's just these weird little stabs here, which I'll have to give them a tone. But no, I wouldn't recommend a Mac. Not at all. Since they announced that they are moving entirely to ARM, they are officially not far from stopping support for Intel completely. They charge you twice as much at least for anything. Their customer support is I would say second to none, but it is literally next to none. Because if you take something to them and they can't fix it by a simple means, they will pretty much flatten your entire hard drive and charge you through the nose for it. So yeah, no, not Mac at all. Macs are for people with more money than technical sense. I mean, if you have an unlimited budget, you know exactly how to use your software, but you are not au fait with hardware at all. And if it is going to break and you need somebody else to fix it, by all means buy a Mac. if you are even slightly price conscious, performance conscious, which I am very much so, or have the ability to upgrade your and maintain your own equipment, Macs make no sense. None. Yes, check out the last episode of our podcast, which went out on Thursday. We talk at length about why Apple do not care about professionals anymore. They have not done for a long time. There we go. You can't get a license for VST2 anymore. Yeah, but when was the last time someone got a license for VST2? For practically an open format at this point. Can I tell you why most producers use Mac? Yeah, because they bought them 10 years ago. Back when it was a different conversation. Also, most producers these days don't use Macs. That's just... It's... there's a name for it. Because they have quite prominent branding. You go in 5 studios and 2 of them have a Mac, you will see that Mac because of the branding. And in your head, you'll go, every studio I went to had a Mac. Times are changing. Times are changing. Plus, here's the other fun thing. I use Reaper for everything in audio production land. If I use Reaper on a Mac, it is identical to Reaper on the PC. Identical. If I use plugins that are compatible across Mac and PC, it is identical. Identical. The only difference is there's a little dock bar at the bottom instead of a start menu. I can save myself a couple of $1,000 by putting up the start menu. I'm not stupid. It's not about what you work better with, because honestly speaking, if you're using a machine for music production and nothing else, that's the important part. Nothing else. Oh, even like video editing and nothing else. If you use like the Adobe suite, that kind of thing, then it does not matter what platform you use. It doesn't. Here's the thing. If you're saying, well, Mac works for me, yeah, of course it works for you. If there's nothing wrong with your machine, of course it works for you. But if you worked with a PC, it would work for you exactly the same, and it wouldn't have cost you as much as it costs. Yeah, it's like the old thing of saying, oh, Pro Tools is the best. At one point in time, that might well have been true. Today is not that time. So, let's, what are they called? Power slide. So these need to go into a little group. these need to be panned, and these need... I'm going to copy that cab over. Do I spend a lot of time making sure everything's perfectly in tempo post-recording? Depends on the genre. Generally, no. If something's slightly loose timing-wise, but it feels nice, why would I change it? If something is obviously out, I will fix it. But I don't do it out of force of habit. I listen. Because this is not my track. This is not my creative project. I am the mix engineer, and my job is to make it sound good. My job is not to fix everything. Unless the artist specifically asks for that as a service. That's not mixing. That's editing. I'm not being hired here to edit. If there's a little bit required, I can do it. But you have to, at some point with somebody else's work, say, okay, well, this must have been their artistic intent. And I cannot interfere with somebody's artistic intent. If I've had a conversation with that artist where they've said, this is at a certain point, I want you to be creative, I want you to collaborate with me, I want you to put your spin on things, that's different from just simple mixing. That becomes a creative process, and at that point you have carte blanche to do whatever you like with it. But that's something you really should talk to an artist about. If you were to say, if you were to have someone say to you, can you mix this? And then you tighten everything up to the point of rigid perfection, and it's not what they wanted, problem's on you. So let's start with this as a PV on a crunch channel and see what this does. Oh, I've put them on the left channel instead of the stereo group. That also has far too much low end in it. A lot of these guitars seem to have been recorded with a lot of low end in them. Where's good old Reaper EQ? So let's scoop some of that low end out. Preamp. Bit more. Bit more. That's a little leaner and meaner. There we go. I'm basically trying to remove the 70s-ness. Because a lot of stuff recorded that's very 70s has a distinct kind of mid-hump, because that was kind of the flavour of the day. Okay, so we're getting there. That's starting to feel quite nice. What is this guitar? Right, so that sounds a lot like the power chord, but with that crunchy kind of feel. But I think I can get quite a bit of delay on that as well to give it feel. This song gives me vibes of Biffy Clyro type thing. So I'm just gonna bump this up a bit so I can see more tracks and see where we get to just by copying. Do I ever do any noise reduction? Nope. Nope. I make sure everything's properly edited, but if something's a noisy signal, it's a noisy signal, and that's okay, because once everything's in context, it's not something people tend to notice. If something's unusably noisy, then it's unusably noisy, and you send it back and get them to do it again, because there is a level of unacceptability. But I mean, there's a tiny bit of noise in there, for example, but it doesn't sound unreasonable. I spent a lot of time listening to one of my favourite bands, Tool, Grammy winners, massive dynamic range and all their stuff. Listen to some of their tracks. There's actually quite a lot of hiss and noise on some of those guitar tracks, because Adam Jones from Tool is running 300-watt guitar heads, all pretty much at full. And quite often he'll back the guitar volume down really low to do the cleaner things. But there's a lot of in the back of the thing. Questions about Reaper that aren't covered in the 101 series. Unfortunately, I don't really have time to be answering one-to-one personal questions. I wish I could. If you really, really need in-depth stuff, then I do have the Ultimate Reaper Guide on the Pro Mix Academy as a whole 9-hour course, so that's super in-depth. Also, there's Kenny Joyer's Reaper Mania stuff on YouTube. He covers separate bits of everything. There's always the Reaper blog with John Tidy. Yeah, so there is that. Yeah, sorry I can't be more help with doing 101, but I don't tend to respond when people send me a personal email with questions because I don't have enough hours in the day. I wish I could help everybody, but if it's a public question that ends up helping 100 people, I might be able to make some time, but on a one-to-one basis, just can't do it. Thank you, Marty. Yes, the link is in the chat to that. So, moving on with what I was going to do, I was going to add Echo Boy on here, but I'm going to use the full Echo Boy this time because I want something that's a little more tweakable, that's studio tape and ping-pongy, because that's my thing. And I'm going to go with a quarter note and a little bit of feedback. Probably a half note then. That's nice. Having some stereo ping pong delay, that should fill it out a bit. Probably want a bit more than that, actually. I'm going to bump the saturation on it and add a little bit of that mix back. Because I probably want a little bit less of this guitar overall, but I want that delay to fill those gaps. A bit more feedback. Hi, Scott. Hey, everybody, it's my friend Scott. Can we get a huge congratulations in chat for Scott? He has just left his day job. He is officially free. He is now free to be a YouTuber like me, kind of. It's the weirdest thing. So yes, everybody say hello to Scott and give him a big round of applause. Congratulations, well done, mate. You deserve it. It's been a hell of a month. Yes, on Friday we'll be doing another stream where we'll be talking about PC builds again, but this time we're going down a more budget-oriented route and really trying to squeeze the dollary-doos to try and get the most performance out of an audio computer. So 8 p.m. UK time Friday, me and Scott are going to be chilling out on stream, probably taking 4 hours to do what we should be able to do in 30 minutes. But yeah, it's Scott's got more massive nuts than I have, because it took me this long to leave a stable job just because I was terrified. I mean, Scott's also got a little girl who's younger than my daughter, so yeah. But yeah, well done. Yes. Discord. Let's just find that further up the chat and paste that one more time. So there you go. We have a little community where everybody joins in and talks about not just Reaper stuff, but just mixing in general. There we go. But yeah, this... Okay, if you're asking computer questions, we've already answered all of these in 8 hours worth of computer streams. One last Friday and one the Friday before. I'm going to try and focus on mixing now. The answer is the Ryzen 3700X, but I'm not going to get into why now, because, like I say, we've done a whole thing on why. But if you're interested in the why, it's all there for you. Plus, you'll get to see Scott's lovely face and his majestic beard. Now we seem to be whittling down our number of guitars. So I've got one called Verse Background. Oh, wow. Apparently that's what guitars not doing much sounds like. Through what slate compressors on my drum bus? My drum bus is a little bit of the FG Bomber. I'm just gonna solo my drums just for Scott. Just for Scott. So, I have two in series. So, the trimmer's just taking volume down. And then FG Bomber adds, actually adds thump. And then I've got the Monster with a tiny, tiny little bit on the mix that makes, it's the Crazy Fire. That's without. And that's with. Yeah. And then air is just the top end lift. But yeah, without them, it's nice. And with. And that's not using any separate reverbs either. That's just having lots and lots of room reverb to work on. So yeah, fun. Yeah, fun fact, I've been a Slate kind of convert and disciple for a long time, and Scott kind of hasn't. So I've been talking on and on about them recently, and it's like, yeah, there it is. But yeah, I mean, it's all swings and roundabouts because everything that kind of Scott's picking up from what I'm doing, I'm learning stuff off him too. Or at the very least, it's kind of opening my mind up to things that were long forgotten. Compressors can make things sound absolutely kick-ass, but you need properly sorted out, tuned and mixed separate drums and separate mic sources first, really, before you can use heavy compression. You need to do it to taste, and it's quite easy to overdo it. So just be careful, because something can sound great and then you can go too far and it just sounds like a mush. Like if I go back to that drum group, I'll go to where it's crashy. If I turn the mix up on this compressor, that just sounds like a mess. But the mix knob allows me to blend some of that in with the original ba-da, ba-ba-da, ba-da, ba-ba-da hits. So yeah, be wary of overdoing things with heavy compression. And yes. I'm gonna load up. So that's a 5150, would you believe, from Kazrog. It's not the prettiest of amps, but what I'm going to do to this is I'm going to use micro shift. And micro shift is a clever stereoizer that will make it sound like it's a mile wide. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Marty's quite right. The general philosophy is a good mix is very difficult without really good tracking, and then good master is really difficult without a really good mix. So try and get your sources right, then try and balance your mix right, because we all, as professional engineers, get sent things like, I recorded this in my bedroom and I mixed it myself. Can you master it so it sounds amazing? And the answer is generally, well, no. Oh, why not? Because it wasn't recorded very well, and he didn't mix it right. It's like, it's entirely possible to do things from home. That's not what I'm saying, but I mean, I'm at home right now. I would like to be doing this on my nice big monitors, but circumstance being what it is, I do a lot of these live streams from home. And yes, it's very important to record well. Very, very, very. A lot of the best albums that you'll find, full stop, you'll find that you can play back whatever they have by just running up the faders and hitting play and going, wow, this sounds great. Mixing should then be a refining process, which is mostly, I mean, yes, I'm doing kind of live reamping of these guitars, which strictly speaking isn't mixing, but again, that's a conversation that me and Ricky from Banana Ranch have had, that they don't have great guitar amps. Ricky lives many, many miles away in Ireland these days. And so what works is they record DI guitars. He usually runs that through to some sort of amp that he's got as well, so he can have an idea of how it sounds. And they send this to me, and then I incorporate that. And I use my engineering skills to kind of interpret what he's playing and then apply sounds to it that kind of fit, which is no easy task, let me tell you. because I'm trying to do the whole thing of, well, what he meant to say was, but luckily for me, I've known Ricky from Banana Ranch long enough that I usually have a good idea of what he's looking for in a sound. Like that one, it's probably supposed to be quite clean. I'm not going to hard pan these, and that's going to add a little bit of chorusing. And yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with recording from home and doing stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm always available for hire. But let's see. Let's use the Neo Creambacks in my 212 for this super clean tone with the SM57 in the what we call the sweet position, which is just like where you'd put a 57 properly. And I'm going to use... I'm going all Kazrog for this one, by the way. Shane from Kazrog is currently working on the next version of these thermionic amps, so it'll be interesting in the months to come to see how these change. I'm going to go with the Bassman. That was never going to do anything if I didn't put the two channels up in their folder. And there we go. I did turn down. These need to be in the right order as well. That helps. I am based in the UK somewhere. Any particular reason for the use of foam instead of rock wool fiberglass? Yes, this is my house. This is where I live. This is my office. This is a rented house, and these are mounted on temporary mounting. These are just, you spray stick a CD to the back, and you can hang it on a tiny little panel pin. And the only reason they are there is that sometimes I'll do things like voiceover in here, and there was a terrible flutter echo in here, and all I needed was to just tame that flutter. That's it. And also, the difference between particular foams and fiberglasses and rock wool is they absorb different frequencies. I use foam at the studio as well, because our walls are all floating walls. Our floor's a floating floor, the ceiling's a floating ceiling. Everything is completely, perfectly acoustically isolated. And we are underground, so there is nothing but earth on every side. So most of our low end in our studio is perfectly taken care of because of the nature of the building and the way that we constructed it. There was an issue with high-end flutter. So the foam helped to dampen down the RT60 of the flutter. But if we used rock wool or fiberglass, that would also affect things from like 2K down to like 500 hertz, which was already right and would have ended up with a massive dead spot in those areas. So yeah, there's always, if it floated anymore, it'd be a boat. Well, it is waterproof. It is tanked. Yeah. And yeah, so there is a good reason for it. If anybody ever says you shouldn't use foam because it's not soundproof, what they mean, I think, is that 99% of people who use it don't know why they're using it and therefore don't use it for the right application. We spent a lot of time, money, investment and research in our studio facilities, and the foam that is used for the right reasons in the right places, and isn't used in the places it isn't necessary. And I do actually have now some rockwool based bass traps in certain places where there's a curve in one of the walls, and that was causing a parabolic reflection. which again, nature of the building, there's not a lot we could do about that. So yeah. So yeah, that's exactly it. In our live room, in our control room especially, you could run a full range sound system with very little low end problem, but in the high end there was it was literally almost a perfect in the top end flutter, because two of our walls were perfectly plastered to a polish finish and were perfectly parallel to each other. Because of the nature of the building, that kind of had to be. Well, foam is not more useful for flutter echoes and high frequency. Rockwool does that just as well. But Rockwool also heavily dampens the mid-range. Which, again, if you need more sound isolation, that's a great thing. That was not what I needed. My floating walls are actually full of the right, I think it's Corning 80 something foam, because they have the floating wall, air gap, Rockwool, another air gap. And so whatever it is that's the Corning proper fiberglass that's used for that is in place, but you don't see it on camera. And the foam is an additional high frequency dampening, again, in the right places, because you want your high frequencies to be properly dispersed around the room. If you use foam everywhere, then it becomes a dead, stuffy, claustrophobic sounding room. Does having loads of gear lying about everywhere help? If it's heavy gear, then it can help with the low end. Doesn't generally help with the high end. Good question, because most of the gear is made of hard, reflective materials. Yeah, so a lot of the equipment that we have in the racks and that kind of thing isn't actually ideal for sound, because a lot of it, if it's metal and you have lots of metal panels around, that can work like a satellite dish. Which is why, if you look at someone like Jack Joseph Puig's room or Chris Lord Alge's room, they have thick carpet. They have thick felt on the ceilings, because a lot of the gear behind them is quite reflective. And so the percentage of the room that's reflective is right, because they've then dampened the rest of it. And so, yeah, it's a constant battle. Fun story this week that's going in this week's vlog. I bought a one of those big metal racks that's not a studio rack, like a storage rack. And that was supposed to go in the control room to have all the amp heads on, so it looked wonderful. It was like a big stack of amps. Let me show you that. I took a little photo of it. See if you can see that. So it looks glorious. I had a stack of Marshalls, PVs, and everything in the corner. But then I hit play on the system, and suddenly I could hear this massive rattling from behind me. And what it was is the construction of it, with the metal plating being quite long and relatively thin, all the metal was having sympathetic vibrations and resonating. And anytime I played anything, it was going out in the corner of the control room, which is massively distracting and completely the antithesis of treating the live room. So I've got rid of it, or at least I've put it in the corner of the live room to be used for drum storage. Because way in the corner of the live room, it's way away from anything that's going to pick up any sympathetic vibrations. If you see the design of my control room, there's two like alcoves at the back, and it's going in the back of one of them. Anywho, that's going to get replaced with something that doesn't resonate. Resonating, oh no, Marty, honestly, this thing, a bit of cork would not have sorted it. Whatever they made this thing out of, it just sang. It sings. It's not. No, it wasn't a little bit. It was a lot. Plus the trays, there's nowhere to spray foam into. It just, once I put it up, I realized it wasn't ideal. So I have already ordered a replacement that is a very different construction, and hopefully that'll cure it. So, yeah, it's just one of those things where I just bought something and learned the hard way. But the idea is sound. It's just the materials that was made out of were not ideal. Anyway, I'm getting massively. I'm gonna nick Echo Boy. I'm gonna take this down to a whole bar actually, and just turn the mix down. Now that sounds stuffy as anything. So I'm going to use another copy of EQ. I think I'm going to put it before the Echo Boy, just so. Yeah, no, it's hard to describe. This, when I say resonant frequency, it had multiple resonant frequencies. It sounded like a plate reverb. Even with an amp sat on top of every shelf to just massively like increase the mass, the solid mass that was dampening each shelf, it still just rang. It was not ideal. Ooh, that's gotta go. Let's bump the high end. Let's try this in context. Let's crank the output of this. Right, we need to be more aggressive with this EQ. This is not Reaper's re-EQ. This is a special one. This is something that was made available on the Reaper forums. This is actually a JS effect, and I found it. Someone linked it to me. I think it was Glenn Fricker linked me to this. So I'm just going to paste the link to it on there. You need to install it in a specific folder by going to Options, Show Reaper Resource Path in Explorer Finder. But yeah, it's very pretty and it does a lot of clever stuff. And it sounds good. There we go. I've shifted my high peak to something more like 3K. Just because that's suddenly going to stand right out of the mix. And probably going to be too loud now. Right, that sounds better. It's a little early, so I'm going to push it back a bit. I'm just going to take it down a little. Right, so I've got 2 more sets of guitars to go. Guitar end riff 1 and 2. Ooh. I don't actually know if the Banana Ranch guys are around tonight. They usually are. But it depends if they are busy. They're busy people. Ricky's a teacher, and I know that a lot of the schools have gone back or are going back, and that's kept him very much out of trouble. I can't remember what Paul said that he does, but a lot of people are going back to work from the whole furlough thing. So, I mean, if they pop in, always welcome. But yes. Yeah, end riff. Let's just copy across this 5150. Maybe give it a bit of gain. And see what... Oh, it's using a Royal. Let's change it to U87. That's going to have more... Yeah, U87's got more attack. Well, I can definitely feel a thuk, 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 thuk at the bottom of these guitars, so I definitely need to cut a lot of the thuk, thuk, thuk. That's just a slide. They're both the right note. I'm going to see how it plays in the mix before I make any musical corrections. Oh, there's loads of super high stuff going on in here as well, so that can all go. Let's say 8K. I can see a very specific spike. Let's see if I can hear that if I pull it out. Oh, there it is. Sounds like a car alarm. Oh, that's going to sound... Didn't realise we had that going on at the end. That sounds great. Metal racks can act as a large antenna. I mean... Oh, you mean with the rack of amps? None of them were plugged in. They were literally just sat on top, so it wasn't that. It's a fair point. But yeah, no, it wasn't that. But well, at the same time, a large metal rack with things properly grounded can act like a Faraday cage. So, swings and roundabouts. Let's see what these are supposed to be. They are not quite in time with each other, so they need a good shuffling round. And chug. Chug, 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 chug. Let's go with another Psycho. And really turn the gain up. Yeah, don't need a lot of that low end. Wrong type. There we go. Smooth that. I'll just chop it there. There we go. Don't think they're right. Cha-chung. Right, yeah, so they should be on the grid there. So it goes chug. And they need some serious that and a lot of crap cut off the top. Get rid of that noise. Let's have a quick listen through. I like the end drums. And then we'll start adding vocals. Go. I'm going to take that set of ambient mics down a little bit for the first section. If this was from a live recording, this would be completely different. Completely different. That's not studio mixing. That's live mixing. That's a whole different art form. You deal with that by kind of rolling with it. Allowing some of that bleed through on each instrument. Try not to EQ too heavily. Try not to gate too heavily if you can. Because you can hear gates in live situations. Unless you can make it the tightest gate you possibly can on things like heavy guitars, you've got to be careful. You can't do ultra heavy compression on vocals because things like drums start to come through the vocal mic. Depends. If it's a massive stage, you can really get away with a lot of stuff because the bigger the stage, the less the reflections. If musicians are all on in-ears, then again, minimum reflections. Really just depends on what you have. Just listen to your sources. What do your sources tell you? What can you do with them? What needs fixing? Because if you've got great sources to begin with and very little needs fixing, then the best way to mix is to do nothing. There's a lot to be said for doing nothing. Anyway, moving on. So let's... Right. That scratch guitar is way too loud there. So that can come. Let's open up the automation here and just make sure that that's an appropriate level because it hits the ear too loud. Right, so that sounds nice, but it's taking up far too much of the frequency spectrum, so down you go. All that low end can just go, because we don't need it in the mix, because when the bass comes in, that's going to take over that whole section. Unfortunately, I am not adding bass tonight, as I am bereft of bass. I am without my friend. I am lonely. So first thing, next time we do a Banana Ranch stream, I'll be finishing off this song by adding bass. Slap like epico. Yes. All that stuff. So until then, this will have to be a bassless track. Which isn't quite right, but yeah. This is sounding better now by the minute. We are the youth of the nation. Oh, yes. Yes, I mean, if you want to join in for the podcast on Thursday, I'll see you there. Otherwise, Friday. We're going to be releasing a video every day this week. It's going to be manic. And I think I'm going to be releasing a video every day, including some of the live stream, of course, for about the next 2 weeks. I've got lots and lots of stuff lined up. A lot of which the patrons on Patreon will already have been privy to and have access to right now. So yes, massive benefits to being a patron is that I'm actually ahead of the week early release schedule right now, I think. So yeah, it's all been a bit mad. I've gone from scrambling to make sure I've got enough videos for everybody's content to being like, what do I do with all these videos? And genuinely worrying about making sure that I can put everything out in a timely manner. Because like I edited a video today for the new 2 Notes Cab M firmware, which came out this week, and if I don't release that soon, that will be largely irrelevant. So that needs to go out soon. Then I've got a video for a company that make DI boxes called Simple Way. That is like, if that doesn't go out soon, they'll get a little bit annoyed. I've got at least one vlog ready done. I've got another one that I'm in the middle of editing. Oh my word! I've ended up being more organized, and it's actually making life more confusing. I'm using an app called Trello, which Chris in the chat will be familiar with, because we used to use it for Banter Media. And so it helps me to keep in track of what I've got. So the David Nosey interview, I can move that to released because that went out. That's great. What else? The unbox video also went out. Brilliant. I'm in the middle of filming a demo of SC Electronics drum mic, so that's going to come out soon. Got lots and lots. I'm just looking up. I did upload the David Nosey to YouTube. I did. I mean, I've got a list that I'm just updating a couple of things on right now. I've got 2 microphones for Jay-Z mics that I'm working on a video for, but it looks like I'm almost up to date on my editing, which means that I can get back to filming soon, which is good because I've got Ivy for the next 2 days, and that's good. It's much enjoyable. But yeah, I also managed to cram in last night a nice evening of just me and the missus. And yeah, I actually filmed for a professional client because I still do some filming jobs outside of Hot Pole Studios. And I did that yesterday as well. So I am a very busy man. Yeah, I showed Scott from Chernobyl Studios Trello, and he's like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" I was like, "He sounds like that." No, he doesn't. But yeah, he was very, very happy because it is a good tool. And so I'm getting miles off track now. What I'm going to do first is clean up a lot of these vocals, because looking at these vocals, I'm just going to hide the mixer for a minute. He sent me 2 tracks of verse, 2 tracks of bridge, 2 tracks of chorus. Looks like that's a doubled vocal part. That's fine. That's cool. That's nice. But then the situation repeats. And if these don't overlap, and they don't overlap, then there's absolutely no point in me having a ton of vocal channels, because it's a waste of processing power, and it's also a waste of brain space. Thank you for the donation, Al. Donations are always gratefully received and thankfully applied. So, there we go. That's now... I've not even done anything with the vocals yet, and I can already see that if I move these vocals, I'll put snap on again, move these up 2 channels, and then get my chorus vocals and move them up 2 channels, and then another 2 channels. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 channels that I can just hit the delete key, and suddenly that terrifying amount of vocal work that I had, it's gone. Now it looks like these do overlap, so these need to be separate channels, but what this means is I can have a vocal group, Vox group, unleash the Vox group. Not the Vox group. Yes, the group. Oh, don't worry too much about plugging any of our courses, because we do teaching courses through Pro Mix Academy, because in a few days the summer silly sale is going to be on, and that's going to be amazing. It's going to be bananas. I've got several Reaper videos that will be going out live on Glenn Fricker's channel. Several. Several. And yeah, they're going to be sick of me by the end of this couple of weeks on Spectre Sound Studios, and that's going to be awesome. I mean, not that they're going to be sick of me, but... Oh boy. There we go. So... estimated delivery date tomorrow. Sick. Oh yeah, you see what I did there, even though that was completely unintentional. Tomorrow I take delivery of 4 monitors and a quad monitor stand. That's absolutely ridiculous. So at some point tomorrow, my partner's going to be very upset with me because I'm going to have a house full of boxes. Yeah. So, yes, indeed. I'm going to be streaming this week with Scott again. Yes, I am. Friday, we're going to have a rocking time on Friday with a chill out stream where we talk about budget computers. Well, good budget production computers very specifically. Because I could just say, oh, get this, it's cheap. But no, we're going to be looking at the $500 budget range, specifically for a music production PC. Basically squeezing everything we can out of $500, not aimed at gamers, not aimed at Fortnite or PUBG or anything, aimed squarely at what we can get out of music production at that price point. And you can get quite a lot. So, yeah, it's going to be a good laugh. Maybe we could make it a weekly thing. Who knows? We just... Adam and Scott talk crap about the industry whilst talking about PCs. There's our bit. So, let's make these a colour. Track colour, one random colour. Purple. Perfect. So, I'm going to do a little bit of top-down mixingness. So, my vocals always sound nicer when I add a little bit of something, a little bit of fairy dust. But actually what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do more top-down than I usually do. I'm going to experiment. I'm going to add the New York Virtual Tube Collection on console mode. Not touch anything, but just let it do that whole analog saturation thing. I'm going to add in air and crank up a little bit of air on the vocal now before I do anything. And I think that'll do it. That'll do it for now. No, I'm going to add a bit of Revival's thickness as well, just because. Let's see what happens if I mix into this. See if we like it. And I'm also going to send a little bit of the vocal group out to that small room, minus 17, and a bit to the vocal plate, just before we even start. As always, someone hits the thumbs down. It's user engagement. I don't care.
You pull me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease. I'm teetering, I'm on the edge, I'm falling to my knees. All alone in the darkest desert, the mountains block my view.
Wow.
Waiting patiently for your searchlight, what else can I do? It's a shame that you leave me hanging on for dear life, darling. A shame that I can't be found within your searchlight beam. It's a shame.
Calm down. Crazy with those vocals. Can't tell if that's a joke, but I've not actually done anything to the vocals yet. That's just building a vocal group. The vocals have got literally nothing. What I am going to do, that sounds decent, but what I am going to do is a little bit of tweaking. I can hear a little bit of low-mid muddiness in this main vocal.
You pull me up with the slightest word, you knock me down.
There, so I'm just going to take out a couple of dB on that.
You pull me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease. I'm teetering, I'm on the edge, I'm falling to my knees.
Yeah, cool. Yes, I mean the New York is awesome, but yeah, it's hard to tell sometimes whether someone's actually joking in the text. I do appreciate that. It's just something to be aware of, that for everybody who cracks a joke, you get some idiot. Oh, it's just like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's like, come on. So yeah, a little bit. It sounds like Ricky's had a microphone upgrade. But yeah, I'm going to use the FG401 compressor because I can hear some level jumping around here, and I don't want to heavily compress this because I also know that Ricky quite often records in a room that's not heavily treated. So I'm going to do 3.5 to 1 here. Probably bump a little bit on the makeup gain before I even do it because I want to have a couple of dB of compression most of the time, but not a lot. The attack and release are usually set quite well for vocals, and circuit 2 is optical, so I'm going to dial this back on the threshold after hitting play until I get a couple of dB of reduction. See how that sounds.
You build me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease. I'm teetering, I'm on the edge, I'm falling to my knees. All alone in the darkest desert, the mountains block my view. Waiting patiently for your searchlight, what else can I do? It's a shame that you leave me hanging on for dear life, darling. A shame that I can't be found within your searchlight beam. It's a shame that you leave me hanging on for dear life, darling. A shame that I can't be found within your searchlight beam. Nothing can keep this from falling apart. I'm dead to the world, it's dead to your heart. Nothing can keep this from falling apart.
Yeah, so the vocal's getting lost at that point. That's fine.
Nothing can keep this from falling apart. I'm dead to the world, it's dead.
Because what I can do now is I can add in the second vocal, because this is going to be doubled, because this is what me and Ricky used to always do, was
You build me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease.
quite loosely track a double vocal. It's kind of Ricky's style. And the first thing I'm going to do is just copy over that, and while I think about it, I'm going to add the virtual tape machine to the vocal group. Just like so, because it just makes everything sound even that bit nicer.
You build me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease.
And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of exaggerate this second vocal. So I'm going to push the top end up. I'm going to scoop some of that low end out here, because this is going to be used as an effect, and I'm going to automate the volume quite heavily in this track, I think. So this second vocal is going to get micro shift absolutely slammed.
You build me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease. I'm
Do I ever flip it to mono on the master bus just because? No, not really. That's not really my style. I do sometimes just for a little check, but yeah, not really my thing. I mean, a lot of the instrumentation that I work with is generally fairly straightforward. It's either hard panned or it's just singularly panned. I'm less interested in the mono balance because people say, oh, you know, it might go out in mono on radio. If you're out of FM stereo radio range, you're not listening in critical detail because you're that far out that your reception's terrible. Oh, phones are still mono. Mine isn't. Most modern phones are stereo, thank you very much. And if you're listening to it on a phone, again, you're not interested in quality. If you were, you'd be wearing headphones. And guess what headphones are? Stereo. So all those old arguments are all dead, really. So
You build me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease. I'm teetering, I'm on the edge, I'm falling to my knees.
that's the one. So micro shift, the first two buttons for styles are based on Eventide micro pitch shifters, and the third one is based on an old it's an old AMS unit, AMS DMX16. And the delay, you could actually pitch shift the delay, so one side would be slightly higher, one side would be slightly lower. And
you build me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease. I'm teetering, I'm on the...
So if I put that in the mix and muted the other one, that would sound not very nice. It's quite exaggerated.
You build me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease.
Compared to the nice one.
You build me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease. I'm teetering, I'm on the edge, I'm falling to my knees.
Might actually add a little bit of Neve top end to my main vocal, just a bit.
You build me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease.
And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use some automation on both of these. I'm just going to hide my mixer. and massively turn down the second one, especially for the start, and then crank it where I want it.
You build me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease. I'm teetering, I'm on the edge, I'm falling to my knees. All alone in the darkest desert, the mountains block my view. Waiting patiently for your searchlight, what else can I do? It's a shame that you leave me hanging on for dear life, darling. A shame that I can't be found within your searchlight beam. It's a shame that you leave me hanging on.
Do I automate every single syllable? Observe. Watch me not automate every single syllable. No, for some genres and some styles, I can see why you would, but I mix a bit more like kind of a classic 70s mix engineer where I try and let the piece and the compressors and everything do that work for me. I tend to do much more broad sweeping moves wherever possible.
That you leave me hanging on for dear life, darling. Shame.
There we go. So I've lifted the main vocal a little bit, and I'm going to really lift this double vocal and watch this make it pop.
Searchlight beam, it's a shame that you leave me hanging on for dear life, darling. Shame that I can't be found within your searchlight beam. Nothing can keep you from falling. Nothing can keep you from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart. Nothing can keep you from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart. Nothing can keep you from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart. Nothing can keep you from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart.
Right, cool. I don't need this, by the sound of it, to cut. I don't need it to cut through because there's a second vocal part here, and that's going to cut through. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cue up this vocal part here.
Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart.
So I'm going to copy the lead vocals effect.
Nothing can keep me from falling apart.
Take a bit more out of the low mid for this, and I think I'm going to use an 1176 to really pin this down.
Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart. Nothing can keep me from falling apart.
So let's blend this in with the other ones.
Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart. Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart.
And then I'm going to copy the stuff from the second vocal to the fourth vocal, and then just blend that into taste.
Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart. Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart.
There we go. So make sure the is all edited out. I know there's other things going on in the mix, but that still shouldn't be there. Let's see this in context.
Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart. Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart.
Just checking mono just to appease everybody, and it sounds fine. What you will find is hard panned stuff in mono tends to drop out a bit. So heavy guitar mixes do tend to drop out a little, and that's just the nature of it, and I don't mind.
Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart. Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart. Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart. Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart.
Do I ever use spectral editing? Rarely. It depends. I use it if there's a problem. If there's a serious problem somewhere, then I might use it. But I use it on film sound quite a bit, where you've got something that's been recorded and you need to recover it because you can't do ADR. Sometimes I'll use it on an acoustic guitar to temper down a couple of squeaks where I don't want to dip the volume of the entire performance, because as soon as you start using compression or gating or any sort of volume automation on acoustic guitar, people notice very quickly, especially in the kind of stripped down performance styles. But spectral editing can definitely help. That's right, the video for spectral editing hasn't gone up on Glenn Fricker's channel yet, but it will. At some point, you will see a video on the Spectre Sound Studios. You will see a video on Spectre Sound Studios channel. Spectral editing, spectral edit, show spectrogram, is when you have something like this, where you can actually see the frequencies represented across a heat map. And you can then do things like, let's say there was a squeak on an acoustic guitar up in the high end, you can actually remove it or compress it, that kind of thing, without affecting the rest of the sound. I've used it also for things like cleverly gating things, like frequency-specific gating without having to add a plugin. That's something that you can do. It becomes like multi-band gating, which is something that I know AIX are now doing, but yeah, it's just an alternative option. So let's build these in.
Without you, there is no me. Without you, there is no. Without you, there is no me. Without you, there is no me.
Right, let's start with you.
Without you, there is no me. Without you, there is no me.
And let's just keep this going.
Without you, there is no me. Without you.
I am going to add in a specific Echo Boy Jr. here, actually, just because I feel like it.
Without you, there is no me. Without you,
Half time, because we're at a fast.
Without you, there is no me. Without you, there is no me.
Really cut the low end out of it.
Without you, there is no me.
And take the mix.
Without you, there is no me.
And I'm doing that on one of them, not both, because otherwise, if it's on both, it'll get messy quickly. So let's just copy this lot over to the others and see if that.
Without you, there is no me. 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 Without you, to your heart. To your heart. There is no me. Without you, there is no me. To your heart. There is no me.
Okay.
Without you, there is no me. Without you, there is no me.
There we go. There's kind of a resonance in that one, around 700 hertz.
Without you, there is no me. Without you, there is no me.
Yeah. Hello, Warren. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good, we're good. Welcome, welcome. Everybody say hello to Warren and the Produce Like a Pro family. It's good to see you again. Scott's been in chat keeping us company. And yes, Scott was telling us that he's finally quit the day job today and given in the goodbye form. Yes. And so we are doing some mixing on a very intense track that's got a very Biffy Clyro type feel. And we're getting to the kind of the big climax of the song and doing it procedurally, so we've got to that point.
Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart. Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart. Without you, there is no me. Without you, there is no me. Without you, there is no me. Without you.
I think what I might do here is automate on this fourth vocal, the really stereo one with micro shift going on. Just that there is no me, because it's 4 vocals where the timing's a little sloppy on there, but it's got a bit of a gang feel. But then that there is no me seems to be the kind of the key of this line. So I'm really going to crank that and see what happens. Yeah, that suddenly pops. That thou chicha you can see it because of the spectral peaks. I love these spectral peaks. You can see that chicha you wasn't even close to being in time. And now, without me having to listen over and over and over and suddenly that should go without you, and it's still not going to be perfect because there's 4 layers of vocals here, but it's going to be a ton closer. So that there is no me. Banana Ranch have not given me a reference for this song, which is interesting. I'm just kind of going off feel, and it feels like Only Revolution's era Biffy Clyro to me. It's got that definite kind of trio feel, which means that I'm going to play the bass probably on Friday and maybe next week. Well, I'll finish this off and then carry on with the next song. And I'm going to have an octave, a sub-octave on the bass, which is quite unusual. But the Biffy Clyro boys do that a lot, and it's a big part of their sound. So I'm going to feel that out and see how that fits in this mix, because a lot of the Ashdown amps have this kind of sub-harmonic thing. So I'm going to see how that feels under this. Yeah, there's still a bit too much crashy in the set of cymbals, so I'm just going to wring some of this out. It might make no sense on its own, but This one's higher in this set of mics. There we go. Hopefully with these other mics. Yeah, it's still in the overheads. There we go. Oh, there it is. Oh, that hurts. There we go. So I've got that "there is no me" to really pop. And I've got some R's to make fit. Yeah. It's just me being silly. You know what? I can hear that in the mix, so I'm just gonna drop it in. So I'm gonna make an R group. And ladies and gentlemen, you're gonna see me perform live on stream, because that's just gonna bolster that down a little. It looks like it's just doubled later on. Actually, looking at the spectral information, it's not been copy pasted. That's good. So yeah, I'm just gonna drop this in. Okay, so just duplicate that to make R5. Here we go. There we go. Turn record off and job's good. No, don't delete selected track, otherwise there was no point in me doing that. And there we go. I do like stacked harmonies. I always feel that a single line just gets kind of lost. There we go. There we go. Mine doesn't need to be as loud, but from third to seventh. I could probably do thirds and sevens. No, that's too much texturally. I mean, I could do it, but from a textural standpoint, it's getting too much for the song. I could drop it to a seventh. Yeah, but that's getting a bit clustercardy, and that is going to really interfere. So let's not. Let's treat these as a single group and do the typical Biffy Clyro again type thing with it. Cover it in microshift. With their group vocals, they do tend to use SSL EQs to scoop the bottom out. Play, please. Oh yeah, helps when you make a group folder to actually put them in the group. Derp. There's a lumpiness in the bottom from my vocal. There. Cluster chord, yes, it's a term I've used since university because yeah, it's like, oh, let's just add a 17th to that. Oh, let's add a third, a second, a fourth, a diminished fourth, and a ninth. Blah, and it just ends up sounding like a choir of goats. Oh, speaking of Kazrog, whose amps I am using right now and whose true iron is on my master bus right now. If you go to kazrog.com, they've got 25% off sale on everything. Literally just got an email. So there's kazrog.com. If you want to help out my friend Shane and use his great sounding plugins, then that's where they are. Not a sponsored thing. Literally, I just got the automated email. The sale ends in blah, 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 blah. I already own them all, so it's no use to me, but it may be of use to you. I think I might use a gate here. Yeah, it just cleans it up a little. And there we go. So these don't need to be loud in the mix, I don't think, but mine can probably come up a bit now. I don't think I could do Devin Townsend style vocals even if I wanted to, partly because Ivy's in bed, and if I start going and doing the big thing, then, and I'm doing that like super low volume, then yeah, she'd go and then I'd have a very upset family. So I mean, hey, once I'm in the studio and doing a live stream from there again, I can go absolutely bananas in there. It's one thing I very much miss about being in the studio on the regular is that I could really go all operatic and no one was there to stop me. Hee hee. And people say, oh, you should practice your singing more. It's like, yeah, well, practicing in front of polite company can be quite difficult, and then practicing when you've got a baby that's in bed, super difficult. Not happening, because the big stuff, not quiet at all. When I really get going, we're talking over 100 dB. Yeah. We're talking with the windows closed, the neighbors could complain. So, yeah, it's something that you'll find a lot with those big rock vocal singers. That's what she said. What, the complaints from over the road? Yeah. What have we got left that I've not added in yet? Got these. Without you, there is no me. Without you, there is no me. There is no me. Right, so these don't need their own channels. These need to be on. their respective channels. Just nicely cleaned and edited. Because these are just repeats of the previous stuff. So that There Is No Me, I want to be on the super stereo channel, and I'll probably bump the volume on that one. Because that's a really nice feature. I like it a lot. I also need to bump, where does that go up to? Plus 0.8, so that There Is No Me. There needs to take snap off, thank you very much. And bring that up to 0.8. And there, 0.8 also. And let's just see. That might need to go up even further because there's no other one. Right, so I'm going to do a nice little automation trick. That big that Echo Boy Junior, I'm gonna open up all the automation. Where are you? Echo Boy Junior, there it is. Echo Boy Junior mix, and I'm just gonna turn the mix at that snare hit. So right here, I'm just gonna turn it off entirely. So it literally goes. Yeah. And let's just give that snare an extra little push. Because I just want that last one to really fizz like a firework. Now, I know there's no bass in here yet, but let's just listen to this song all the way through now. Try and be objective wherever possible. There's going to be a lot going on, and if there's anything that's fighting each other, we'll try and carve out some space. But I think we're 90% of the way there, considering we don't have the bass. It might even be closer, but let's see. That's dry as a bone. That guitar could probably have a little bit of that, what I call the vocal plate reverb. But that's the Lexicon A plate. I was talking to Scott earlier. There we are, just a tasteful amount. About Verb Suite Classic. Oh no, actually, tell a lie. This is lustrous plates. This is lustrous plates on the vocal that I've been using. The snare is the FG2000, and the small room is the Bricasti BM7, which is definitely my go-to for this kind of thing. But yeah, lustrous plates, just a tasteful amount on this guitar will make it sound like it's not just dry.
You build me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease. I'm teetering, I'm on the edge, I'm falling to my knees. All alone in the darkest desert, the mountains block my view. Waiting patiently for your searchlight, what else can I do? It's a shame that you leave me hanging on for dear life, darling. A shame that I can't be found within your searchlight beam. It's a shame that you leave me hanging on for dear life, darling. A shame your searchlight beam. It's a shame that you beam. It's a shame that searchlight beam. It's a shame.
That's muddy as all hell. now that we've got everything in context, that's got way too much low end. And just needs less. That thing's just a monster. I need a. Let's try a Butterworth low cut. There. That sounds quite thin, but I can now push the overall level. Those R's are just piercing, not in a good way. That's fine, I just need more EQs.
All at sea on the darkest of nights, the storm is closing in. Desperately I want your searchlight because I cannot swim. All around me water's rising, strong winds start to blow. Can you reach me before it's too late? And I think that you know it's a shame that you leave me hanging on for dear life, darling. A shame that I can't be found within your searchlight beam. It's a shame. Searchlight beam. It's a shame.
Right, I felt like the vocal was a little too much in that quiet section, so I'm just going to shave a couple of dB off it. Yeah, just that added ninth. Touche.
All at sea on the darkest of nights, the storm is closing in.
That's better. I took 1.5 dB off and suddenly it's not hitting me.
Because I cannot swim. All around me water's rising. Found within your searchlight beam. It's a shame that you leave me hanging on for dear life, darling. A shame that I can't be found within your searchlight. Nothing can keep me from falling apart. That you leave me hanging like darling. A shame that I can't be found within your searchlight beam. Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart. Nothing can keep me from falling.
Yeah, this guitar needs a little EQ work. It sounds great on its own, but in context it's a bit stuffy. Let's try that. No, that. There we go.
That you leave me hanging on for dear life, darling. The world isn't dead to your keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if you're dead to your heart. There is no way. Without you, there is no way. Without you, there is no me. Without you, there is no me.
I think we're getting there. So those guitars were muddying up the heavy bit, which has been sorted. Let's do this.
That you leave me hanging on, that I can't be found within your searchlight beam. It's a shame, it's a shame,
It's a shame.
it's a shame.
That's where I want the vocal to jump in level. Yeah, mic the rack up. And I mean, if it was used as a specific effect, I could definitely have it, but I just can't have it in the control room all the time. Because it's just like having some little kind of weird, tiny little alien fan base in the corner singing along to everything.
You build me up with the slightest word, you knock me down with ease. I'm teetering, I'm on the edge, I'm falling to my knees. All alone in the darkest desert, the mountains block my view. Waiting patiently for your searchlight, what else can I do? It's a shame that you leave me hanging on for dear life, darling. A shame that I can't be found within your searchlight beam. It's a shame that you leave me hanging on for dear life, darling. A shame that I can't be found within your searchlight beam. Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart. Nothing can keep me from falling apart. I'm dead to the world if I'm dead to your heart. Without you, there is no way. Without you, there is no way.
Right, so for the Without You, There Is No Me, this really needs to blast. Doesn't need to be quite so rude on the top, I don't think. Cool, so it's a little bit less on that first section, and then for the Without You, it's blasting.
No me.
Yes, usually the unlucky that are born with resonance are those with empty heads. So you say things and they they resonate in their skulls and just bounce back louder. Oh boy. But yeah, I think this is a good place to leave this mix for tonight. We've now been live for 3 hours, and I think we've pretty much pulled it together between us. Well done, everybody. Good job, guys. And obviously the bass needs to go in there. And that's going to be good fun, but I'm going to be coming at it from the angle of, what would Biffy Clyro do? And yes, I'm leaving you. It's 1 a.m. for you, Scott. Go to bed. Yeah. Well, I try and keep things natural. There's no point in me going absolutely crazy with something. Again, unless it was an artistic thing, in which case I think the artist would say let's do that. I'm certainly not against doing things like, samples and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think this song warrants it. So, yes. So, yes, I think that's a good place to leave it for this evening. So, next time we do a Banana Ranch stream, we'll finish off the mix for Searchlight, and then we will start work on the track called Weather. And we will spend 3 hours talking about the weather. How very English. So, thanks, everybody. Do join the Discord if you haven't already, and that's a good place for us to talk. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, if you're watching this having not seen the channel before. Hit the like button, that really helps us to spread the gospel. And I'll see you all very soon, and there's lots and lots of video content coming out. Look forward to, what video's coming out tomorrow? I can't even remember. I don't know where my brain is. But then it's the podcast Thursday. Then me and Scott are going to talk trash about computers on Friday. So I'll see you all very soon. See you later. Hey everyone, that might be the end of the video, but if you fancy carrying on this conversation, we have a Discord server, link is in the description. We're also on Patreon, which is something you can really help us with. We also are on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Hop Hole Studios. See you there.